Hey Richard, how you going, mate?
Fantastic. Great to
Fantastic.
be with you.
Yeah, listen, thank you so much for joining us. It's been it's what a crazy time it's been. I mean, it's just it's like the whole country is just sort of trying to come to terms. Well, the whole world, in fact, is trying to come to terms with this coronavirus. And we've been talking to people in New York just to sort of get a feel on the ground. I mean, it's like it's like everybody's just very quickly having to learn how to adapt to this new way of living. And I don't know if it's just gonna end or if it's gonna continue to be like this. Anyway, thanks for being with us, man.
My pleasure. It's good to chat.
Fantastic, fantastic. So yeah, listen. So the idea of the show is just for us to have a bit of a bandy, and I think the one thing that's the common thread is that people are in a bit of a depressed state, mentally and emotionally. And I thought it would be fantastic just to have a chat with you and to see how we can lift the spirits of South Africans and see what it is that you're doing. I mean, like how is it that you're getting on? I mean, how's this thing affecting you? Is it business as unusual, or what's going on your side?
Okay, so let's start off with the premise that my business is completely toast. So let's understand what I do for a living. We create presentations and conferences for companies in a land in which presentations and conferences are illegal. So you cannot get together and do these big gatherings and these big events that we do it from. Theoretically, we should be a mess. We are actually a bit of a mess because a lot of our clients who had paid us for stuff are not, don't want to do it anymore. I cannot tell you without a shadow of a doubt, my business is an order of magnitude better after this, even if we die. Even if we get to a point where we're bankrupt for a stage, when I claw myself out of the ashes, I've got a better business. Because we have, first of all, the whole world is accelerated. Everyone lives in a different space now. Everybody now knows how to do a Zoom call. Everybody knows how to have conferences online. Everybody knows that we can actually engage digitally. That means geography has just been thrown out the window. Every product we're creating now is an international product. You do not have a local market anymore. If you have a local market, you're doing it wrong, because as long as you can find a local supplier for the product you create, you have an international market. Everything is potentially better, assuming we're not dead. If we're dead, not ideal. Well, but other than that, the only point of view is to be excited, because anxiety is a waste of an emotion.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, so we've had a couple of medical professionals on here today as well, and the thing is, if Corona's not going to get you, then stress is definitely going to get you. You got to sort of try and change your mental states and adapt. I mean, we have no choice. The bottom line is we have no choice. And the moment you take ownership of that fact that you have no choice, and now we have to start playing in a different playing field, I think life starts to move forward, and who knows where this is going to be.
So there's that Stoic philosopher Epictetus, and he talks about the two files. So every human being exists with two files, and one file in your brain, and this is the most important choice. If there's one bit of work you have to do, and I've literally written this down, I've physically written this down, and I have a choice of, there are things I can control and there are things I cannot control. And there's certain things that actually our president made easier for us, because when he declared a lockdown, I no longer had to worry about all those things like, should I bring my staff into work, or, how are we doing this? We just had to do what we had to do. So things I cannot control, going to the office, that makes it easier. Things I cannot control, anything at all to do with the coronavirus. Literally, the coronavirus is the least interesting thing. It is a background actor. Right? Somewhere in the back of this story. It is the gunshot that was fired in Act 1. It isn't even the most important thing, because I'm stuck in my house. So right now, I'm not going to get it. I must check once or twice, every couple of days to see what's going on in an update. If something major happens, we'll know about it. If people want to get ahead of this, stop wasting even another second on anything to do with Corona. Ban Corona from your vocabulary. It is unhelpful. That is not the virus you're fighting. The virus you're fighting is the idea virus caused by coronavirus, right? My business isn't in a mess because of the fire in the corner of the cinema. It's a mess because somebody shouted fire and everybody's scrambling for the doors, right? We're dealing with the idea. And as soon as you realize that, it forces you to stop. So in my column of things I can't control, COVID-19. There's no part of that I have control over. I did have control over it before because walking out of the house, but now, other than how I act when I go on a shops run, that is my only concern about COVID-19. Everything else now is focused on how can I keep my team paid? How can I build relevance for my business? And how can I actually build this, help our customers in such a way that my company is actually better at the end of this than it was going in?
So I mean, that's an amazing philosophy. I mean, I just wonder, Richard, I mean, there are some companies out there right now that, you know, they're not in a position to pay for their staff. I mean, how do we speak to that somebody's psyche that have had, you know, maybe a company running for 10, 12, 20 years, and they've employed these people and they've had these people that have been loyal to them, and now they're sitting in the situation where they just aren't able to afford to pay these guys anymore. I mean, how do we deal with that? I mean, I understand the philosophy of we can't, you know, we can't change things that we can't change, but how do we deal with that mentally? I mean, that's a tough one, yeah.
So it requires a level of honesty and authenticity from leaders. So I don't know if I'll be able to pay my staff, right? I absolutely do not know. We built a bunch of products. We're making the best fight for this. We've built products that we think will be relevant, that our customers need. I've been on calls left, right, and center. All my speaking revenue that was a separate business is applying straight into that business to keep my salaries paid. But we sat down and had a very frank conversation with our team, and we said the following. So I'll take you through our philosophy, I think, and my team is unbelievable. We said to them, priority number one is to make your salaries. So we did a few things. We said, if you want to, you can moonlight elsewhere. The only thing we ask you, because our staff normally, if you make videos for us, you're not allowed to do video freelance, you know, but we said, you can make that. The only thing we say to you is, if you made 10 grand from doing a freelance video, let us know. And that's 10 grand less than the salary we'll pay you, so we can get you to the amount that you were getting. And they were like, that's cool. Then what we did is we told every single one of our staff that every single one of you is a salesperson. And every single person in the business can actually earn money up to they can earn money so to make them get to the point of their salary as well. And we said to them, because the truth is, I don't have a long runway. We're a 23-year-old business. I started it when I was 22, but we don't have a ton of runway. We're not that kind of company. So if our clients, so there's two concerns for us. One is the concern that we don't win new business. And the other concern is the customers that owe us money don't pay us. So we theoretically have months of runway, but we're not sure that we're that priority of a payment that somebody isn't going to say, I can repay you in 90 days. And we can't weather that storm. So the first thing I want to say, the one narrative change I want to say is, don't be upset with the companies. The job of a business isn't to, companies don't exist to pay employees. And when people talk to me about loyalty, I think it's a very funny statement, because I've had my business for now 23 years. And some people have been with me for a long period of time, but some people have left and they've taken another job for a slightly bigger salary. And I never once turned around to them and said to them, you're being disloyal for doing that. I understand that they are actors in their own movie. But my job is to say that I believe over a period of time, if this company just dies, if I keep paying people salary and then we die, then we've got nothing. But if I can keep this business going, then I can continue employing people for a long period of time. I took my staff through this. Honestly, I sat them down and said, this is the reality. These are the numbers, and this is what we can make in order to just pay the bills. And I will put all my personal speaking fees and revenues into the business to make sure your salaries are the only thing that matters. And it was a really tough conversation. I sat there and I've written personal values, and I read them out first. And I made sure that I was holding myself true to those before, when I was kind of working out what I was going to say. And then at the end of it, they all like cheered and said, thank you. And this is a conversation where I said, I might not be able to pay you in a month. People, my team understand, right? And in fact, we got a message, I don't want to go into detail now, but I got a message from one of the team who contacted the MD of our business and said, listen, if you do need, I can take a bit of a salary knock. Here's an amount I can afford to take, on their own volition. Because our team are in this. They understand. The WhatsApp group they created is called We Are the Link. Like, they want to make this run, and they understand if we all have to take a knock, we'll do it. But that's because we spoke to them, we were authentic with them, we took them through the reality of the situation, and they can see that we're acting, trying to put them first. And we are. They are the number one priority for me right now, them and the customers we do business with who've trusted us with their money.
Yeah. You know, I'm looking at a company like Edcon, and we know that they just hit the news now, and things unfortunately coming to pieces for them. But it just goes to show, and in my personal opinion, and I'm no business guru by any means, but you know, I think Edcon have had a tough run over the last while before Corona even hit the scene. And I think businesses in general, you know, you're either going to get stuck in the mud or you're going to learn to start moving. And I think I think businesses that have got these old rigid models and that haven't tried to learn to adapt to the times are going to get hit very, very hard. I mean, and Edcon is a prime example of that. You know, obviously my heart breaks for the people that are in that business, because a lot of the guys that are working there are working on quite low salaries, and they come from lower incomes, and it's a challenge for everybody. But we have got to adapt. Bottom line, we have got to adapt. We've got to learn to do things differently. We have to learn to leverage technology properly. I mean, technology's been there for ages, and we haven't been tested like we've been tested now. And I think we're just starting to get the crux of it. We're just starting to understand what this technology really is and what it can do.
Well, that's the good news, right? So, and I'll come back to the Edcon bit in a second. The good news is that this is the great accelerator. History will remember this as the time that we accelerated, that it actually was a step change. I was on a podcast earlier today and I spoke about two laws. Well, one law and a quote that have kind of been thrusted together. So there's a thing called Parkinson's law, and Parkinson's law says the amount of time something takes is the amount of time it's been allocated. So if you're given a week to do something, it takes a week, but if you're given a day, you manage to get it done in a day. Now, digital transformation typically has, you know, it was given time, but no fixed amount of time. So it's taking as long as the time that it's available. And in the second law, I call it Ellington's law, but it's not really a law, but it kind of should be. And Ellington's law, or the quote by Duke Ellington, is this: I don't need time, what I need is a deadline. So you don't need time, what you need is a deadline. So Ellington's law and Parkinson's law has been thrust together. If you had said to a business, if you'd gone into the IT infrastructure of a company the other day and said, hey, I would like to make a platform so we can have our entire workforce working remotely within a week, they would have all said to you, absolutely not possible. Yeah. And then you said, well, actually, no, the government said we have to have it done in a week. And you're like, cool, hold my beer. And that's what happened. Yeah. So all of that heavy lifting has been done. And now businesses have a reason to believe. So now companies know, you know, they know there's these factories that have been refitted to operate in a certain way. Now, you know, Theo Priestley brought up the guy whose podcast was on earlier. He brought up a gin distillery that had been repurposed to do hand sanitizer.
I heard about that today. Fantastic.
Right. So now you have this gin distillery that's repurposed to become a hand sanitizer company.
Yeah.
Now imagine in the past, if you went to that gin distillery, I guarantee you, if you said to them, hey, how long does it take you to launch a new product line? They probably would have said, oh, it's about 6 months. Now when the CEO walks in and says, hey, I want to launch a new line in this space, and they say 6 months, he says, no. Because we now know that you can, if you can turn around a distillery to make hand sanitizer in a week and a half, well, then you can launch a gin brand in a month. So this great accelerator has happened. If I can come back to the Edcon thing quickly, it's very interesting. So first of all, I think history has been, or I think we've been unfair to Edcon. So you have this guy, Grant Patterson, who was a board member. He didn't have to come back to that company. Right? He didn't have to do this. They were hiring for CEOs, and eventually this was a guy who's literally, his career has been stellar. He knew that if he came back into a job like this, it would be taking a risk. And he was putting measures in place, measures to turn that big ship around. Yeah. And they were turning. They were doing clever things. Yeah. And you know, when you're that big a ship, you're not going to just transform quickly. Yeah. And the sadness for me is that it was always going to be a long shot, but I think he might have made it. Yeah. I spoke at one of their events and I listened to him, and I spent about 45 minutes on a call with him, and I probably watched about 2 or 3 hours of his interviews. And I thought, I buy this guy. I believe that his plan is brilliant, and his staff believed in him. Yeah. So I'm just a bit saddened by the fact that maybe he doesn't have the runway he needed. Yeah. However, the idea virus, as opposed to the virus itself, the kind of mimetic virus, is attacking the bits of the business that need to be attacked. So in my company, it's forced us to relook at our entire business and say, what parts of my company are currently on life support? And, you know, I've got to pull the plug on those bits of the company. So the products that we just had, because I kind of dug them because I was when I started the company when I was 22, they made sense. And I still have them now, but they're eating the profits of my business. They're gone. Yeah. Right. So it's attacked the weak parts of my business and it's killed them off. And it's forced us into a second thing. And the second thing is this: every single business needs to ask themselves 2 questions. And this is from my book, Legicide. But when we started a company, we fell in love with the problem. At some point, we fell in love with the solution. Right now, everybody needs to go back to what problem do we solve, not what solution do we offer. Because when you look at the problem you solve, then you ask yourself, does this problem still exist? And if the answer is yes, in a different way, then solve for that. Every business needs to be trying to solve for that problem, not sell the solution they have.
Yeah.
People still need clothes, right? People still need fashion. People still need all the things Edgar's offers. But do they still need it in big, expensive real estate?
No.
Possibly not.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I mean, you know, I'm just going back. I mean, I listened to the Bruce Whitfield show when Pat was speaking, and man, you get a lump in your throat, you know.
Yeah,
it was devastating to, and you know, because you can hear there was so much time and there was, and you're right, the model that they started implementing was fantastic. You know, use that big chunky real estate and start to offsell portions of that in order to drive revenues. You don't have to carry those bulk overheads. You outplay the risk to somebody else. And unfortunately, like you said, they just couldn't get that turnaround. But that was some clever ingenuity, and we've now got to take it to the next level, right? I mean, how do we just disband that whole idea of bricks and mortar completely, and make our businesses run so that the risk factor just depletes? That's the trick. That's where we are.
Totally. And I think that's where we should be. And to look at that with anxiety, so you've got a choice. You can look at it with anxiety or you can look at it with excitement. The line I've said to my team time and again, and the thing that I wrote down for myself was, what if this is the best thing that ever happened to me? So I think there's two versions of future you that you have to go to. And the first one is you have to turn around and say, go imagine a scenario in which future you is turning around, future you and future I are on a call. And I turn around to you and say, wow, it turns out this was the best thing that ever happened to my business. And then future you says to me, why? And I have to explain to you, you've got to write as if that was true. So I know that in our space, we help businesses present themselves. I know that in my space, people are still having to present, but now they're having to figure out how to do it online. So we built a whole bunch of really cool offerings. We've worked out, how to coach people on all these things. So I could say to you, I want to start tracking back to say, well, the kind of company that would look at this as a success made these decisions. And then I started from there. So I started from the point of view of what would the kind of company that was launched today, if I launched a presentation strategy firm today, because this happened, what decisions would I make? And then I made those decisions. And then the second thing is that future you has to be able to look back at future you and be proud of the decisions that they made. So if I do have to let go of staff, they'll need to look back at me and say, how did I do that? Did I try? Was I buying myself cool stuff online while letting go of a staff member? Did I make every effort? And at some point, future me is going to hold present me accountable to every single decision I've made. And I needed to have some form of reference to work from. So I sat down and I went through again they're not quite values, is not the right word, because I've written, the way I've written is the person I want to be, or the person I want to become. So I've written through those behaviors I would have if I was the person I wanted to become. And I'm constantly measuring myself against those in the decisions I'm making. And this, by the way, is where we will find out how many companies that spend millions of rands on putting their values on a picture on a wall. This is where we find out if they matter. This is where we find out if you're a CEO of a company like that and you don't have your values sat in front of you behind your computer on your Zoom screen, then I'm calling bullshit.
Yeah.
So I know you said F-bombs. Okay, cool. So I'm calling bullshit because this is where we learn if your values mattered. And in fact, this is the only time they do matter. Business as usual. We don't need a guide for business as usual. Nobody really needs values for business as usual. This is the time that your values were written from. Hold yourself accountable to them. And if they don't work, change them after this.
Yeah.
Carve your values out of the situation we're in now. This will define who you are as a business. And I promise you, leaders will be carved out of this.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just something that you touched on just now, and it makes me wonder, how are we going to value and understand currency and money one day? Because all of it's going to change. The way that we spend money, the stuff that we find value in. I mean, there's going to be very little for you to get a running, sustainable business that's driven online. Doesn't cost you an arm and a leg. I mean, it costs you money from a development perspective, and sure, there's costs involved there, but certainly not, having the most expensive advertising campaigns and billboards and all these things that we used to value. Now it's going to be really about how do I connect with people using technology? How do I get my message out there? And how And the other thing is authenticity, you know, because I think that already we started to see these changes in terms of marketing. The ways we used to market a few years ago just don't work anymore. That's why people are trying to, you know, flock to influencers and using influencers to try and drive their messages. And even that doesn't work anymore. The trust factor is not there. You know, how do we start building trust factors? How do we start using our money to stimulate business? What is that revenue really worth to us?
Yeah, it's a very interesting question. And to me, again, what's exciting is that this has forced us to, before this would have been, you know, if you and I jumped on a call a month ago, this would have been a conceptual discussion. Right? It would have been like, hey, I wonder how this looks. Like, how could this look? Let's hypothesize it. Whereas now it's, well, you're going to do one thing with your business. I'm going to do one thing with my business, and we'll get back together again in 3 months and we'll compare notes. Because that's what's happened. And we've got to try different things. The one thing I would suggest is that, for me, you've got to be honest to the problem that you solve again. So I always say to people, don't sell the ambulance, sell the accident. If you sell the accident, the ambulance sells itself. People have to amplify the problem that they solve in the world. They've got to make sure, because a lot of people don't realize they're itchy until I tell you, I bet you've got an itch at your back. And then you start thinking about it and like, oh crap. Right? So you've got to sell that to people, and you've got to figure out the right way to do it. And for us, that might be using lead generation platforms or different ways. But again, the beautiful thing is, hey, what if I was a global business? What if I could solve what I do right now for 100 businesses around the world, and then start from there? It really has accelerated absolutely everything. I think it's amazing what we're going to learn. But we've got to be quick.
Yeah.
The best thing for me, I always say that in Legacy, there's a line I talk about that says, when you want to make a change with something, you have to understand that you're not saying that you were wrong when you did something in the first place. You're saying that you were no longer correct. So that's an important distinction. And what I've found right now is I thought of an idea last week, Monday. I launched it to the team. And by last week, Friday, we had new information. And I realized that no longer made sense. So I was like, guys, I know we get all excited about this, but that was right then, but it's not right now. This is right now. And people have to change quickly. Yeah. So building that agility into your business is, I mean, your company is in boot camp and it's getting fit, and your people are getting business fit and change fit. And when you leave this, hopefully you'll have a fit, fast business.
Fascinating. It's really fascinating. Richard, I mean, what is your message for the guys that have just, you know, that businesses have just tanked, the businesses are busy tanking? I mean, what is the one thing you just want to leave these guys with? You know, what do you want to say to these people?
Just go out swinging. Don't decide. Don't watch your ship go down. Don't stand there on the deck with the band singing songs, watching it go down. Like, run down into the boiler room and put wood on the hatches. Like, I am one of those businesses that could be sinking. Like, I'm a realist. Like, I do understand the challenge is massive, but I'm going to not take it. Like, I'm not going to go down without a fight. And I promise you, my team are behind me, and we're going to go all the way, and we're going to carry on pushing this thing as long as we possibly can.
Amazing.
Like, and again, it's only worth being excited about, because everything else is a waste of an emotion.
Listen, I couldn't agree with you more, man. Richard, Mulholland, people, thank you so much, Richard, for spending time with us and imparting your thoughts and your experiences. You know, the experiences you're currently going through. We really appreciate it, and we hope to have you on again here. You know, we've got nothing but time over the next 21 days to sort of you know, speak to people like yourselves and to sort of extract where everyone is and what we can all do together. You know, something that's been very encouraging before we go, though, and I've touched on this a few times today, is the way that we're seeing a lot of companies starting to come together. Which is really, really fantastic. Instead of having this competitive stance, now we've got this, you know, like the ship, we're in the ship, it's got holes in it, and, you know, we might as well all grab oars and start rowing. And I think that's something that's really remarkable. I'm so fascinated by the fact that we've got this merging of competing businesses coming together saying, all right, guys, how do we move forward together? Don't you think that's extraordinary?
I want to show you one thing. So behind me here is a bunch of board games, right? There's like 1,000 of them. Yeah. And I want to grab one of them there. And most of these games are games that we would play against each other. Yeah. But there's a game which is currently, I think, the number 2 rated game in the world. It's called Pandemic Legacy. And it's a game where there's a global pandemic and you're trying to solve it. And the difference, and it's been an amazing, it's been on the number 2 slots in Board Game Geek for years. It's a phenomenal game. You can actually get it on an app and stuff called Pandemic. Highly recommend it. But the most important distinction of what this game has taught us about life is 99% of those games are competitive games. We would all play together against each other. Pandemic is a cooperative game. You all win or the pandemic wins, right? So either we win together or we die together. And that is exactly what's happening here, is that the game we're playing now is a cooperative game, right? There is no other way to play this. This is as close to an alien invasion. You know, I've often thought, like, what happens if the only thing that would stop war in the world right now is if aliens attacked us.
Yep.
Aliens have attacked us.
Yeah.
This is an alien invasion. Yep. And the only way to fight it is everybody stands together and works better to save humanity. Because that's what we're doing. And these guys called it when they designed this game. So
fantastic.
I think
Maybe
it's very, very heartwarming.
It doesn't come from China, does it?
No, probably was made in China.
All right, guys. Well, Richard, listen, man, it's been wonderful talking to you. And is it? Yeah,
made in China, designed in France. Well, there you go. Enough about that. That's gone.
Okay, my friend. Listen, man, it's been great chatting to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. All the best.
All the best. Take care.